J.D. Vance went into the lion's den and came out with less scratches than a man's car after breaking up with his crazy Latina girlfriend. The vice president was at Ole Miss tonight, gave an excellent speech, and then took questions from students in honor of Charlie Kirk. Those students didn't go easy on him. They were probing him on Israel, immigration, and one of the most important topics to me, his family. This was a spectacular answer.
And yes, my wife did not grow up Christian. I think it's fair to say that she grew up in a Hindu family, but not a particularly religious family in either direction. In fact, when I met my wife, we were both, I would consider myself an agnostic or an atheist, and that's what I think she would have considered herself as well. You know, everybody has to come to their own arrangement here. The way that we've come to our arrangement is she's my best friend. We talk to each other about this stuff. So we decided to raise our kids Christian. Our two oldest kids who go to school, they go to a Christian school. Our 8-year-old did his first communion about a year ago. That's the way that we have come to our arrangement. But thank you.
Yes, baby! Praise the Lord. What he's about to say next is very important.
I think everybody has to have this own conversation when you're in a marriage. I mean, it's true for friends of mine who are in Protestant and Catholic marriages, friends of mine who are in, atheist and Christian marriages. You just got to talk to the only advice I can give is you just got to talk to the person that God has put you with, and you've got to make those decisions as a family unit. For us, it works out. Now, most Sundays, Usha will come with me to church. As I've told her and I've said publicly, and I'll say now in front of 10,000 of my closest friends, do I hope eventually that she is somehow moved by the same thing that I was moved in by church? Yeah, I honestly do wish that, because I believe in the Christian gospel, and I hope eventually my wife comes to see it the same way. But if she doesn't, then God says everybody has free will, and so that doesn't cause a problem for me. That's something you work out with your friends, with your family, with the person that you love. Again, one of the most important Christian principles is that you respect free will. Usha's closer to the priest who baptized me than maybe I am. They talk about this stuff. My attitude is you figure this stuff out as a family, and you trust in God to have a plan, and you try to follow it as best as you can. And that's what I try to do.
That was very good from Vance. The Bible talks about being equally yoked with your wife or husband. If you are women watching this, I thought I did everything a man would if they were trying to repel women from watching. I'm actually kind of curious, what percentage of you guys are women? Here are my analytics. 71% of you aren't subscribed. Okay, 39.9% women, 59.8% male. What is user specified? I hope none of you LGTV people are watching me. And if you are, please give us back our alphabet. We're tired of you taking letters away. Oh Lord, why have you burdened me with 40% women? It should be 0. The vice president also gave a lecture to the students on Christianity in America's founding.
I want to just make sure that everybody's kind of on the same page here. So if you go back to the First Amendment, it doesn't say separation of church and state. It says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. But if you go back to the founding time, there were actually a number of states that had formally recognized churches. So there was the Anglican Church of Virginia. That was the official state church of Virginia. Maryland at the time was the only majority Catholic colony, or at least had a significant Catholic representation of the original 13 colonies. There's a lot there. And yes, I do think that what happened is the Supreme Court interpreted Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion to effectively throw the church out of every public space at the federal, state, and local level. I think it was a terrible mistake, and we're still paying for the consequences of it today. But and I think this is your point, if you were to undo that, if you were to get back to a system actually meant by the founders where Congress is not setting up an established religion, but people in their local communities can kind of do whatever it is that they want to do, I think that would be a better system than what we have today. But I think the most important principle that we have got to remember is you do not have to completely kick God out of the public square, which is what we've done in modern America. It's not what the founders wanted. It's not good for the United States of America. And anybody who tells you it's required by the Constitution is lying to you. Thank you.
Oh, that sounds so good. I love when this guy answers questions because he's so straightforward. It's a good thing Trump picked him because they complement each other. Trump would have gone on crazy run-on sentences, added so much extra information. I had a friend of mine, he was a good Christian, better than anybody you would think, even better than Billy Graham. Billy Graham, he was a great Christian. They thought he was good, they thought he was the best Christian. But Paul the Apostle, perhaps only Paul was better than Billy Graham, and only Billy Graham was better than a friend of mine who was a great Christian. I had another friend of mine. Bro, we were wanting you to answer whether you think Jesus is king or not. The Vice President, J.D. Vance, is right. The notion of separation in church and state was always about keeping the federal government away from choosing one denomination of Christianity. That's how Christian the country was. The founders were like, hey, we know some of you are Quakers, some of you are Baptist. The federal government will not interfere against any of your sects by picking Baptist, Quakers as the nation's religion. That was the purpose. Now, I'm not saying the United States is a religious theocracy. It's not. But it is a country whose virtues and ideas and morality are derived from Christianity. The concept of an equal application of the law, no matter who the defendant is exclusively Christian. All other religions teach that their people, the people who are believers in that religion or in the Jewish faith, born into it, they are different from everyone else. Whereas the Christian religion teaches that all humans are made in the image of God. Our religion teaches mercy for our enemies. In fact, not just mercy, love. Like, we gotta kiss on the people that are slapping us. Some of you might take this as permission to be in an abusive relationship. That's not what I'm saying. But this country was founded on those virtues. They always bring up Thomas Jefferson because he was a deist. He did not subscribe to the divinity of Christ, despite all the overwhelming evidence that Jesus was God in the flesh, Emmanuel. Jefferson is always the scapegoat when they argue that actually the federal government and the church, the founders never intended for the church to have any influence in the government. So he's always the scapegoat. But Jefferson himself called for a national day of prayer. This was before authoring the Declaration of Independence. His thought process was the Christians, if they are praying for independence, we will get it. He was right. The fight for independence started in the pulpits, followed by the law room, where a lot of the founders were lawyers, such as John Adams, who ironically defended the Brits in the Boston Massacre. I love John Adams. A very underrated president. He nominated George Washington to lead the army. He picked Thomas Jefferson to author the Declaration of Independence. He negotiated for a very important loan with the Dutch to support the military's efforts against the British. And he pushed the French to send a powerful naval fleet to force the British to surrender. Come on, man! I know I'm going on a tangent like Trump, and now I'm talking about the founders. What's next? I start talking about John Quincy Adams' time in Russia? Come on, baby! In summary, J.D. Vance answered that question very well. That's probably the best teaching moment these students have experienced. Vance finished off with a very powerful assessment of immigration in the United States.
I want to make this point about immigration, okay? If you ask the question, what is the exact right number of immigrants for the United States to let in, it is just very specific on the context. If you go back to the 1920s, the United States passed an Immigration Reform Act that effectively
Mr. Vice President, the number is zero. Right now, it's zero. Until we can deport the illegals, the borders should be closed.
Down immigration to close to zero for 40 years in this country. And what happened over those 40 years? The many people who had come from many different foreign countries and different foreign cultures, they assimilated into American culture. And there was an expectation that they would assimilate into American culture. I think we have two problems in our immigration system today. And my guess is you're probably a slightly more leftist political persuasion, liberal political persuasion, maybe not. But here's the thing. I remember back in my establishment GOP days, when I was still very early getting involved in Republican politics, I remember a conservative think tank person who told me that one of the reasons why immigration was really good is that if you had enough diversity in a country, people would mistrust each other and they wouldn't join labor unions. Okay? So when I see a lot of...
Who said that, and where does he... no doxing, we don't believe it. Nah, that's blood boiling to hear.
Left-wing people who theoretically support organized labor, saying we need to flood the country with a limitless number of immigrants. They're unwilling to set any limitations on it. My response to that is you are destroying the very social trust on which American freedom and prosperity was built. And that is really important to me. So the honest answer to your question, what is the exact number of immigrants America should accept in the future? Right now, the answer is far less than we've been accepting. We have got to become a common community again, and you can't do that when you have such high numbers of immigration, which is one of the reasons why we have the immigration policy we do.
Wow, that's awesome. He's completely right. The United States used to have a moral center, so it really didn't matter who would come into the country because this moral center related everyone to everyone else. So it was hard for people not to feel as part of this larger American community. But over time, our morality has been tainted and destroyed by the radical left and their demonic backers, and now there seems to be no connection between people. So deport the illegals, close the border for a little bit, create unity amongst the people in the country, and everything's fixed. This country also needs to remain majority white. Demographics do matter. This is not a supremacist view, obviously. Have you seen me? Come on. Why would an Asian man like me? No, seriously. It's not a supremacist view. It's common sense. It doesn't remain majority white by importing South Africans or more Europeans, but by just incentivizing more white people to have babies. Black people have babies too. The point is the population shares need to remain the same. But what we've had instead is a huge influx of illegals who are changing the demographics of cities, and then the local population is just outright replaced. It's not a theory, it's just what happens. So, for that reason, I'm a big believer that the country needs to remain majority white. Thank you all very much for watching. God bless and goodbye.